All right. We're live now. Hey, Sujit, welcome on board to this LinkedIn Live. Hopefully, we're building up an audience. And so, while we're building up an audience, while we wait for a couple of minutes for more folks to join, why don't you tell us which part of the world you are in right now?
Hi Prasanna. So I am based out of the one of the best cities in the world, right? So that's
Okay.
Pune, in India. What
So, how's
about
the weather
you?
there now?
Uh, yeah, it's just like the start of the summer, so a little warm. I guess we have started feeling that heat now.
I'm in Bangalore, so it's not yet summer here. So, it's pretty good. Weather's pretty good.
I guess
Not too
Bangalore
cold,
has
not too warm.
Bangalore has a good weather throughout the year.
Yeah, most of the year, except maybe little part of April. Cool. So, I still don't have this T-shirt.
I just got one today morning.
That's what you guys are always saying, man. Where is your admin's email ID? Anyway, I think we're at 3. So why don't we just get started? I know you folks for about what, 6 years now, 7 years,
Started
2015,
somewhere,
14,
yeah, 2015. So you can consider it 6 years complete.
6 years. Awesome, very interesting. So we've known each other for 6 years now, and we've been working together for that long. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to start iMocha? So your history before iMocha.
So I'll start with the journey of iMocha mainly. So iMocha was named as Interview Mocha, right? So I and Amit, my co-founder. So we were sitting in a cafe coffee day, and in the year 2013, trying to figure out what the name our company should have. We are focused like we'll get into the interviewing space. So we started with interview cafe, interview day, and all, and everything was not like none of them were available. And finally, we are having a mocha coffee. So we searched for interview mocha, got the domain, built a tech product, ran it, and then while we had a product, but we didn't get a lot of customers, and because bandwidth issues, adoption issues of video interviewing, had to shut down that in some end of 2014, and we pivoted into skill assessment, the new avatar of interview mocha, which is iMocha in March 2015. So I would say at that time everybody told us, right, don't get into the skills assessment space. It's a very crowded space, right? Thousands of companies are there. And then 4 years later in 2019, Google came up with a report among the top 12 recruiting tools in the world. And out of that, there were only 2 skill assessment tools, and one of them was iMocha. So we say we traveled that journey from 1,000 to 2 in 4 years.
Wow, it's brilliant. So I think while you start somewhere, you go somewhere, right, and then people actually recognize you for where you are. Can you tell us what the product does? What iMocha does today?
So iMocha is a skill assessment solution, right? So skill assessments mainly for enterprises, where skill assessments companies are using today to hire new people, because for one job application you have thousands of applicants, right? So you need to screen them without any biases. You need to screen them effectively. And the second thing, what we have seen recently is also a lot of reskilling and upskilling, because no more that one certification helps you to survive your career, right? You have to keep on reskill and upskill now every 2 to 3 years. So people are learning everywhere. So skill assessment for reskilling and upskilling as well. So like in a one short sentence, iMocha helps CHROs of large enterprises to measure the knowledge of their current employees as well as their future employees to create a future ready workforce.
Got it. So this is a very kind of niche kind of a space, right? It's not something that somebody wakes up as an entrepreneur and thinks, "Oh, man, I should get into skill assessment." So, what is the journey that led you to getting into skill assessment, both for current employees and for future employees as candidates? How did that journey look like?
So,
Why did you pick HR Tech? Why skill assessment?
so I and Amit, we met in, we were both working with IBM. Amit was my senior from IBM Software Labs. and we started a services company, an IT services company, which was doing business process management on SharePoint and IBM Lotus and WebSphere portal server. So we ran that company for 5 years, got merged with another company, and we always wanted to build a product company. It was always a dream. So we thought when that services journey got over, right? We thought how to build a product, right? What problems did we face? So we thought one of the problems that we have always faced is in hiring people, right? And we had read it somewhere that you should always only build products for the problems which you have yourself gone through, right? So we thought this is the problem at least we have gone through, right? At that time, not many other things came to our mind, right? And that's the reason we thought let's build something around recruitment, screening people. So that's how the video interview piece started, and then I explained the journey from how through the video interview we got into the skill assessment journey.
Got it. Bit of a tangent here, right? So you and Amit are, from a personality perspective, you're not very similar. How did you guys become friends? And like, you've been working now together for how many years?
Oh, so I and Amit now we are working together for almost like last like 16 to 17 years. We are working together. Very different personalities, right? And I would say that's a good thing about us, right? We both complement each other, right? Because we are very different, right? He is more aggressive, more marketing or sales, the people who are into that thing, right? I'm more on the product and the technology, and we fight a lot, okay? But we always fight inside a room, and we are like enemies of each other. And the moment we step outside, we both go for a cup of tea, and then people say, "You were just fighting, right, in the room?" And we said, "Yeah, we are going to again fight once we enter the room, right?"
Nice. So it's tough to have, a 16-year kind of a relationship with somebody that you've been working with, and then as co-founders in one company, and then co-founders in another company, and so on, right? So any tips or lessons for co-founders, because co-founder conflict is something that actually kills a lot of startups that we see. So do you have any tips around that?
So I think co-founder is like getting a marriage, right? So it's like your life partner, what I feel. So one thing I would say to have a successful marriage, apart from everything, you have to be lucky. So I would say the same thing, right? The first we were lucky to have each other as co-founder. But apart from that, I would say you need to respect each other's space that we have learned. At the same time, you need not agree with each other always, but whatever happens in the office, right, or what happens in the a meeting room, right, those emotion, those things you need not carry outside. And that maturity, the earlier a co-founder gets, right, that's very important. And what we have been practicing, I would say, while sometimes they're just the words, right, which you call as a value system, right, but we practice three things at iMocha. And first we practice between each other. One of the thing is like uh, uh, trust, right? That's super important, and we make sure that I and Amit trust each other. Then I would say uh, that confidence with each other, faith, right? So trust, faith, and the most important thing is work happy, right? So we are always happy, right? We will crack jokes at each other, laugh. We'll make people around us also laugh, right? So it's like because entrepreneurship is a very tough journey, right? If you're always very serious, right, you are going to have similar kind of people around you. At the end of the day, you may succeed, you may fail, but you have to enjoy that entrepreneurship, right? So staying work happy is very important.
Nice, very good. So we'll come to the business side of it, right? So few years ago to now, how has the transition been in terms of your uh, product, in terms of your revenues, in terms of your average price per customer?
Uh, so I would say more about the first. I would say more about the product side, or I would say let's. I would more than the product. I will just kind of tell you where we have learned a few things, right? I guess many would have heard the name of Y Combinator in this world, right? It's the famous accelerator program, right? But for SaaS, I guess it's Upekkha. Okay, and for B2B SaaS in India, it's Upekkha. And before that, we were also a part of Geo Gen Next, right? The Geo Gen Next run by Reliance and Microsoft Ventures, right? Accelerator Program. So I guess Prasanna, we met over there. You were one of the
That's right.
coaches of that in 2015. So I'd heard all the like where we knew that there are 4 months of an accelerator program and they transform you and all, and it was always good. So we got selected in Geo Gen Next, and they had asked us to go to Mumbai, and we were in Pune. And one of the things I and Amit thought, hey, why do we have to go to Mumbai altogether, right? And for 4 months, right? Is it going to be really helpful? Let's not go. And we decided not to go actually. Okay. Then we said, hey, they have selected us. We are among, they said, out of the 100 in the top 12. We said, if they are telling us this, we should at least go and meet them once. So that's why we ended up meeting, going to Georgia Next. Learned a lot of things over there. I still remember the first day. Mr. Ravi Narayanan from Microsoft, he was the director of Microsoft Venture. He said that every unsuccessful product company has a product, and every successful company has a customer, right? I still remember that you need to have a customer, right, to validate your product and all, right? So, and then the Upekkha SaaS program, it was really immensely helpful. And from that, I would say the product perspective, I guess our product has matured in the last 6 years. It has matured a lot. But more than that, what has happened, and especially in the last 3 to 4 years, our ability to understand the customer problem has increased a lot. We are a complete SMB players. We had SMB customers, 800 SMB customers in 2018. We let almost all of them go, and we transitioned to mid-market and enterprise in 2019. It's not that SMB is not good. Your product need to be for a particular category. We thought that our product is more for a mid-market and enterprise, because when it's hiring, you need to have some volume to implement tools and processes, right? And that volume only comes when your company is like more than 500 people plus or 1000 and the real problem starts when it goes 5000 plus. So that transition has been successful in the last 3 years. And in the price point, I would say we have a customer, a large enterprise, and we got a first deal from United States, right? And they were paying us like $299 for 6 months, and now that same customer is paying us like $700,000 per year, right, within 3 years. So I would say
Wow.
that's kind of a transition which has happened.
Wow, that's insane, right? So I just want to repeat it for the audience, right? Product has evolved, of course. Even more important than that, who they're selling to and what problem it's solving for them has evolved. They were selling at $600 a year, uh, half year kind of contracts, and now you have a customer who's paying you $700,000 for 3 years. So that's $200,000, $220,000 a year. That's a massive jump, right? So how many customer conversations did it take for you to get to this point? Like, do you do customer conversations anymore, or you like that was only in the early discovery phase, and now you don't talk to customers anymore?
So there was a time, I guess, when we were doing this transition from a SMB to a mid-market and enterprise. I would talk to at least 2 customers a day. So I would end
Two
up
customers
talking
a
to
day.
8, right? So
Wow.
that is like 10 per week. It can be customer, it can be prospects, right? But the right ICP, ideal customer profile, the right user persona, and you have conversations, right? And then you learn a lot from them. Today, I guess I've reduced that. But I still make sure that I at least talk to 3 customers per week. My week is not over till I don't talk to 3 customers.
That's fantastic. And how much do you think these conversations shaped this transition? How much do you think it helped? Are there any particular conversations that stand out in your memory as, hey, this one conversation changed things for us?
So I would say, as I said, the product improved not much, but our understanding of a customer really went up leaps and bound with this conversation, and we were able to do the right changes in the product. And one of the conversation, I guess, Mr. Sridharan from Hexaware, right? I still remember I would talk to him every Friday from 10 to 10:30, and get the things reviewed, and they were our customer and using it, and that went on for 6 months, right? And that was super helpful, right? I would say that is one of the conversation I still remember, which really helped us to transition more from a SMB product to a mid-market and enterprise product.
Fantastic. So we'll just move to the revenue or the growth side of things, right? So uh, I'll start with COVID because that's obviously a big impact. So did COVID impact you folks? What happened in the first 6 months, March to December of 2020? Did you guys have a negative impact? Did you folks have any kind of an impact on your business? What was happening?
So one thing is in February 2020, just like 1 month before the COVID hit and everybody started working from home, we closed our seed round. Okay, so that was like a small seed round of 600K, but we at least had some money in the account. So if the bad times were going to come, we knew that we have that buffer for the next 12 months. The April, May, June of 2020, when the COVID really hit the first wave, I guess there was a lot of fear around, right? And that fear had like with everyone, the customers, the vendors, the partners, the employees, everyone, and it impacted us. Our revenues went down for that quarter, right? But then the revenue started slowly increasing, I guess, as people are more working from home. Everybody wanted to invest into digitization of the processes, and one is recruitment. People wanted to digitize that process. So it really helped us to grow the business, and we have seen a good amount of growth in the last 2 years.
Got it. So December 2019 to now, how much? What is the revenue jump? How much have you grown?
So I guess in the last December 2019 to 2020 and 2021, every year we have grown the revenue by 2.5x year on year.
Awesome. So
So
almost a 5x, 6x kind of a growth between the two. Fantastic. Super. So, you had raised this money, went through COVID, revenue started increasing again, but you've diluted very little, right? But your angel round was also at a pretty good valuation because you were already almost at, I guess, more than $500,000 to $1 million in revenue at the time when you raised. And you raised only $700,000. So you didn't have a lot of dilution. And now, again, when you're raising, you're at a substantial revenue, right? You're above 3 million in revenue. So why did you have to raise? Did you spend all that money? Did you need money? Do you need more money to grow? Is that why you're raising money?
So I guess this time when we were raising money, we really didn't money. We had a good amount of money in the bank, right? We would have gone with the debt funding as well, right? At the same time, from the growth perspective, right? We took a pause. So I and Amit, we took a pause and we thought, hey, we are $3 million plus. If we grow on our own without taking funding, doing a bootstrap, right? Where will we reach, right? Will we reach like a 5 million, 10 million, 100 million? How much time it will take, right? So the first question was, can we create a 100 million revenue company more than the valuation? Can we ourselves have that potential? Money is the other factor, I would say. Do we see a vision? Do we see a path? Do we see a confidence to take a company to 100 million revenue? And I guess after a lot of study, we got the answer yes. We can create a 100 million revenue company from here. Now, then, if you have to create a 100 million revenue company, you have to create a brand. You have to grow at a particular speed, right? So then, rather than doing the things in a 10 years, why don't you do the things in 5 years, right? So to do that, we thought yes, we need to take funding, institutional funding, to grow fast. And because we have a vision, if we share this vision with investors, I guess they'll be ready to pump in money, right? And we also have not only a vision but a plan. So I would say first a dream to grow big, a couple confidence and a roadmap. Can we grow big, right? That was more what we validated, and we thought yes, we can do it, right? And then why to then do it small? Let's do it big, right? So that was the reason that we raised funds.
Got it. See, today, if you see the news, right, there are lots of entrepreneurs who start off, and when they start off, before they even have a product, they're telling people, I'm going to become $1 billion company, right? And they're raising money at insane valuations basis that and stuff like that. But you're saying that you went through a process, and at some point, you got this confidence that, hey, you know what, we can build this big. And until then, you were a little disciplined with in terms of capital that you raised and stuff like that, right? So, what do you think, in your mind, right? What flipped the switch to, hey, we have to be conservative because you're from Pune, so I'm going to stereotype you and say, you're a conservative set of folks, right? So you're conservative, you're careful with your investors' capital, you're careful with your own time and capital. You're saying, look, how well can I build this business, and I'm going to build it in a sustainable manner. And then you're flipping a switch and saying, hey, look, this can become really large. So in your mind, what were like a few things which kind of told you, look, we don't have to be too conservative with this anymore. We've reached a certain scale. Let's flip the switch. What is some evidence that you had, right? Conversations, evidence that made you flip the switch.
So one conversation I still remember, which we had in 2016, was, and Amit, we are returning back from Bangalore, and in the flight we thought, hey, let's take the company to $2 million. With $2 million, we'll get a PE fund in United States acquiring us for $10 million, and done. And we both can take $5 million each, and that's it, right? And so this was the big picture in 2016. Okay, and because we knew that a skill assessment can grow big, right? As we started having this customer conversations and move to the mid market and enterprise, we realized it's a big problem for large companies to solve, right? And while it's a big problem to solve, we got a lot of enterprise logos. We saw like, hey, we have like a lot of enterprise logos. We have customers paying us 100K and plus. There are dozens of them, right? Now, can we scale this? Can we go it from like a 12 to 20 customers who are paying us like 100 to a $250,000? Can that go and go to 500 customers and 1,000 customers, right? And the answer was yes. The problem was there. We had done that validation. And as you said, we are from Pune and we are a little conservative. We really didn't want to just take that investor money till the time we didn't have clarity, right? So we always proudly say till date, whatever money we had taken from maybe our angels, our friends, family, or we have written all the money with more than the market interest back to them, right? So we plan that definitely when investors are also investing us, they should get the highest returns from us. So we wanted to be first confident about ourselves, about our market, about our customer, the problem we are solving before going to go for institutional fund.
Got it. So now we'll come to the funding itself, right? You were at about 3-4 million. For you to go to 3x, grow 3x, grow 4x, or whatever it is from a year to year kind of a perspective, how much did you want to raise when you started off? How much did you think about raising, and then how much did you end up raising?
So we always any particular mind numbers we had in mind, because we are at a 3 to 4 million in revenue. We always thought that when we raise, we should raise a little larger amount, which can really help us survive much longer, right? At least for next 24 months, and the next stage what we are planning to do, it should help us to take there, right? That was one thing. So we always wanted to raise the money in double digit, right? We never wanted to raise the money in double digit. We always dream to have the series evaluation in triple digit, right? So this were a couple of things which we were clear, right? And because of the value SaaS perspective, we never wanted to dilute much because we had done a good amount of hard work, right, to get it over here. If rather than diluting with investors, you can give good ESOPs to your employees, you can create wealth for them, right? Because it's not only about what the founders have done for the company. You require your family, sometimes your friends, sometimes your mentors, your colleagues. Everybody has their blood and sweat what you have got over here, right? So you need to be little conservative, like a Pune style, when shelling out equity, right? And that you can also call it as values as, right? So yeah, at the end we ended up raising like a $14 million in our Series A. Valuation little less than a three digit, which we wanted to be a 3 digit, but we settled for a little less because we got good investors. Because we just didn't want money. We wanted people who can take us from point A to point B with the entire concept of work happy, right? So we didn't want investors to be like we always like, as I said, like sometimes the marriages and the co-founder, you have to be lucky. With investors also you have to be lucky, but you can be a little bit choosy. So we were choosy this time.
Understood. So, before you started to do the fundraise, right? And now that you've done the fundraise, what are some surprises in that process or in that journey that you've encountered? What is something that you didn't think it would happen there?
So in the entire process, one thing, the entire, I would say we enjoyed the journey of 3 months of going through a number of investors and getting that term sheets, right? So that was an exciting phase, right? So that was first time experience, so that was good. What was a little surprising is, I guess, the due diligence, right? Because you need to maintain your data very, very particular, and maybe because of the 6 years into business, a lot of things, our data was not that. Like we had to invest a lot of time into the due diligence process and getting it perfect and all, getting all our legal documents in the past verified, rectified, and all. So that was a little bit taxing time period, I guess, more than getting the term sheet. After getting the term sheet, we had to make sure everything is in place.
Understood. So from a profitability perspective, right? Before this funding, were you guys cash flow positive?
Yes, we were cash flow positive. I guess since Jan, I would say 2020, we are cash flow positive, right? So we have been cash flow positive like before we went for a Series A, almost for six quarters, we are cash flow positive.
Awesome. So now that you've raised this capital, right? Do you expect to burn all of it within the next 2 months? So that 12 months or 24 months. How is it going to change how you're investing into iMocha? What are you going to invest in? The capital that
So
you raised.
one thing definitely we want to invest into making the product better, right? Providing more value from what are the ROI which comes out of the skill assessment, focusing more on the analytics. So we'll be investing heavily over there. We are a content company at the end of the day. We say that we are a Netflix of skills assessment, right? It's a big content library. So we'll be becoming the world's largest skill assessment library. We are already, I guess, we have today more than 2,000 plus skills. We add one skill per day in the library. So planning to have like a 5,000 skills in the library. So heavily investing into the content, into the analytics, and a lot of our sales till date was all because of the inbound leads, right? So we have been able to scale beyond 3 million with a lot of inbound engine, a lot of SEO around it. So now we also would be investing heavily into the outbound, right? Because we know we are working with middle market and enterprise customer. So doing a proper outbound with an ABM campaign, right? We know who our targeted customers are, who is our persona is. So focusing mainly on them. So that's the third thing. And the most important thing while doing all this, because you have funds now, right? Creating a brand. I personally feel if you have a good brand, the selling becomes very easy, right? And it takes a lot of efforts, a lot of time, and a lot of money to create a brand which people can remember. So these are the major things which we'll be focusing on.
So when you look at the funding process itself, and what you went through in that process, and you had to give some lessons or learn 3 learnings to people who are going to go through a Series A kind of a round from a B2B SaaS perspective. What are some things that you would like to tell them before they start raising a Series A? Is there a process that you would suggest? Is there some learning that you would want to give?
So I would say more from a business perspective, be very clear that the money is just an accelerator, right? It's not going to change a lot of things. So one thing is you should be clear with your business model. How can you grow, right? Nobody else can do that for you. Money is just going to help you to accelerate. So that clarity you need to have. Okay?
Okay.
Second, I would say the second important thing is when you start this entire process, you need to have somebody guiding you, right? Sometimes there are some investment bankers which help you, right? For us, investment banker was Prasanna, right, who guided us through that. So it was because we Prasanna, you know our business very well. We are very well maybe gelled with you. So that was an easy thing, right? But you need to have somebody, a third party who is validating everything. Okay, and I would say the third most important thing is you should be little focused in terms of whom I want to raise money from, right? Some of your like top things where you think, hey, I can go well with them because other companies I've heard from other founders that they're good investors, they have a good market reputation. So find out those 3 names, right? You should hit that first, right? Definitely there are others who will also fund you in the process. So I would say these are the three things: be clear with your business plan, have a good advisor or investment banker to help you, and the third thing is be clear from whom you want to raise. Right, it's not only about money; it's much more. It's the chemistry between you and the investors that has to um, um, like going across really very well.
Understood. So just digging deeper into that, right? I think you also said earlier as well that it's not just the valuation that you're optimizing for; it's the person and who you're bringing on board as an investor that you're optimizing for. So what are you looking for in an investor? What kind of a support? What things that you want to you want in that investor?
So every investor by default comes with a lot of money. So money for sure. Okay, but what we looked as like we are into the enterprise B2B SaaS selling from India. Okay, so we went around and saw which are the investors who are good with enterprise B2B SaaS selling globally, right? So we identify those people, those investors who are really good at that, right? So it's not only about investor. Investor also have a lot of categories. So we identify that category. We also talked to a couple of founders who had raised money in the enterprise B2B SaaS and selling globally. So that really helped us. Okay. And when finally we had a lot of conversation with the investors, we looked like, hey, do those investors have this, the basic, I would say, is work happy concept, right? Are they going to make us more? They're going to put a lot of stress on us, or they're going to help us enjoy the journey which we have been enjoying till now, right? So when we are in a meeting room, when we're discussing the term sheets, right? If we are cracking a joke, are they also cracking a joke and we are smiling and laughing together, or are they like very very serious, right? Because we are taking a lot of money discussions, and always the money discussions are very serious in nature, right? So that was one of the factors we are looking forward to, that the partner who is going to come on board. So with Eight Roads, we have Aditya as the partner, Aditya Sisla, and then Manish Menon. So these are amazing guys, right? When we interacted with them, we saw how they think, even during the due diligence process, even before giving the term sheet, the way they were working with us and all, we found out to be very friendly, right? And then we talked to other companies who had taken money from Eight Roads, other B2B enterprise SaaS. We got a very, very good feedback about the team and about the kind of the processes they have as well. So that was like one of the big decisions to go ahead with them.
Makes sense. So we're at about halfway, right? So for people who are joining in late, we are speaking to Sujit of Interview Mocha, iMocha, uh, as they're called now, and they work with enterprises to do skill assessment, both for existing employees and for candidates that they're interviewing. They were earlier called Interview Mocha, now called iMocha. They recently raised a 14 million round at a less than three-digit million dollar valuation, as Sujit mentioned. They've grown about 2.5x each year, 2.5x each year in the last 2-3 years. They're profitable in the last, I think, 6 quarters or 8 quarters, as Sujit was saying. And that's something that's helped them both raise around very strongly and plan for growth looking forward, right? So now coming to something looking a little future forward kind of a thing, right? So you reached about $1 million, spending very little or almost no capital, right? I think you had raised only 150,000 or something before that, and then you raised again 700,000 or 600,000, and then you got to almost 3 million. Now you raised 14 million. So where do you expect to go from here? So how your ratio seems to be like 100, if for every 150K you're doing almost 7x of that. So with 14 million in the bank, are you going to get to 100 million in ARR?
The wish and the dream is that, right, to get into a 200 million ARR soon. I don't know, really the same capital would be enough, right? But at least the first target, the first milestone is to reach 10 million in revenue this year, right? And then go to 25 to 30 million next year, right? Maintain that 2.5x growth, what we have been able to maintain for the last 2 years. Continue with that same momentum this year and next year as well. I guess people say when you are at that revenue range, you also end up becoming a unicorn or something, right? So that's the Sunicorn story we say. So from bootstrapping to getting funded to Sunicorn, right? So that's the story right now. So that's the next milestone we are thinking. Okay, get a 30 million revenue by next year. Once we reach that, I guess then the next focus would be how to get into a 100 million ARR or 200 million ARR zone.
Got it. So you're now looking at how do I get to 10 million and how do I get to 30 million? Maybe in 12 months, 24 months, 30 months from now, something in that time frame. So, one of the challenges for a lot of bootstrap founders is that, they are so used to spending less, being very careful with every dollar that comes in, right? So, before you raised funding, what was your philosophy in terms of spending money? I know you guys have a way you plan how to spend money, right? So, how would you plan to spend that money typically before you raise capital?
So before we raise the money, we would only spend of how much we have collected in the last month. So it's not about how much you have invoicing you have done,
Month or
but
quarter?
so I would the spending was more on a monthly basis. So whatever collection we did in the last month, we made sure we don't spend more than that collection, right? So eventually, end up having your bank balance really doesn't go down. And if you end up doing a very good collection this month, and let's say if you do a collection of a half a million and your spending is only 400K, then you add 100K to your bank account, right? And when you have very less money in your bank account, every month that 100K keep on going up, you're very super happy.
Understood. So that
That
gear is very difficult to shift, right, for founders. Seeing month on month, how much am I spending? How much am I spending? Keeping it very tight, right? Because now you have money in the bank. So how are you using that money, or how are you thinking about using that money? Is that changed, or it's not changed, or how are you doing?
I would say it takes time. It takes the spending is very difficult to do, right? And that's what we are realizing. It's very difficult to spend money, right? Because you're used to spend calculatively so much, and now suddenly you have to spend with open hands, right? So that's a little bit it's a change in behavior you have to get in. Um, we opened up we are a US headquartered company, but we didn't have an office in US. So but we hired some senior people in sales in US, and we opened a US office. And then we realized the amount of maybe the insurance amount we pay for 20 employees in India, the health insurance, that is what you pay for one employee in US, right? So those kind of an expenses are now coming up. The US salaries, the US expenses, maybe getting into a bigger office. We're hiring a lot, right? So suddenly now that expense has gone up. I've really not checked our last month expense versus a collection. I still know the collection very well, but definitely our spending is much more than the collection what we do every month. I hope even with the funding that still is in check, that you spend a million per month, but you collect 1.1 million every month.
Got it. Yeah, that's a tough. I've heard lots of founders say that it's very tough transition to make. So when you're looking at the next journey, right? 3 million and then 10 million. What do you see as the biggest challenges for you looking forward? Now that the capital raise is done, so it's pretty much execution that you're doing. So what are the big things that you want to achieve in the next 2 years, and which of those do you think are difficult or challenging to do?
I would say the biggest challenge is the mindset of your entire team, right? Not only the founders spending, right, but everybody is used to spending in a particular way, doing business in a particular way, and now you are focusing on large enterprises. Suddenly, the model which was completely inbound till now, it is also going to outbound. So that particular transition, right, selling to enterprise is an art, and a very different art. And while we are all selling from India now, maybe it would be to some extent some field sales, doing some events. So there's a change in mindset required, not only for the founders, but for every employee. Now we are selling to enterprises, we are doing outbound, it's no more inbound, right? The sales cycles are suddenly different, right? So that I would say the change is happening right into the marketing, into the sales team, in the engineering. So everywhere it is impacting. So I guess we are going through that biggest transition. while you go through that transition, you have to maintain your rhythm, you have to maintain a momentum of revenue, right? So I guess that's the biggest challenge which we are facing right now. Transition of not only the founders but of the entire team to work towards enterprise and at a large scale. Definitely, and all this work from home and then hybrid right now, half the people coming to office, half the people work from home. These things add to it, I guess. But this is what the challenges mainly would be this year. And I would say, in terms of the customers, we I guess that confidence we have got that we can easily do $1 million deal sitting in India, right? So if we are definitely going to go and meet customers, we would expect much more, or we'll expect that $1 million happening more and more predictably every month.
Understood. So from a hiring perspective, how's your team growth been in the last 3 months, 6 months? And how do you see your hiring to change over the next 12 months? And what are some key roles that you're looking for people for?
So when the COVID hit in March 2020, like 2 years ago, right? We were like we at that time we were 42 people, right? Today we are 150 people. So that
Wow.
almost 4x growth. Okay, we ended up hiring a lot of people in the last 6 months. So that is basically the growth for this year. So because we had decided whether we take funding, we don't take funding, this year will hit $10 million, right? Because you have to hit that. All the people required, the processes required. We have started building that right from I guess September, October time frame, right? So we have hired a lot of people. To some extent, maybe we are people heavy today, but that's for the future growth. And uh, that's it, I would say. That's from the people hiring. A lot of people in company. When you have a lot of people, then you need to have some senior people to drive them, right? So getting the structures in place, in which roles you require more of VP level people, director level people, manager level people. What is the difference of VP does, a manager does, a director does? All those things, I guess, we have been learning in the last 6 months and getting the right people on board. So we also did this exercise uh, in 2020 when we did the seed funding, and we got a good second layer in place at that time, and that people are still with us and now they are growing, right? So we did this exercise even 2 years ago when we took the seed funding, and you always need to have a second layer, a very strong second line in place.
I think more than second line or leadership layer, right? I think every quarter you folks do a planning process. I think that has really helped you folks a lot through this whole set of changes, pivoting, all of those things, right? I think you have an org chart that is very different. You have an org chart with a lot of holes in it every quarter, isn't it?
Yeah, so we do this quarterly planning every three months planning. We before COVID, we would end the quarter going to a nice five-star hotel in Pune. All the people would come, and everybody would give a complete overview of what his team has done with his team members for the last 3 months, what growth they see in the next 3 months, and we continue still doing that. I guess with this 150 people, getting into one conference room would be difficult now. So we are doing it on online on Microsoft Teams, but yes, now we're going to bucket that into small department level. But that planning has been really helping us. Today also, I guess we are clear with how many people, how many senior people we are supposed to hire over a period of next 12 months, which is even required for the next year's growth, right? To reach a 30 million revenue. So I guess you need to start that planning and have a lot of clarity much beforehand. And a lot of frameworks, I guess, we learned at Microsoft Venture and then Upekkha to get these things right. So recommendation for, I would say, a lot of startups would be make sure you join a accelerator program to learn these frameworks.
Got it. So, Sujit, for you, when you look at, I think when you started off, right, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whenever it was, you were saying that your goal was, hey, let's get to 2 million in revenue. We can sell the business for 10 million. We'll have 5 million each. We'll be happy. Was what you were thinking. And I remember even 2 years ago, just after COVID or just before the seed round or whatever, you folks were already at almost a million. And that time you were saying, look, if we can get to a 20-30 million valuation, we'll be happy. I think it'll be a good outcome for everybody. And now you're at almost a 3-digit million valuation. right? And so you seem to be getting greedier and greedier. Is this like a common thing? And where does the greed end? So one of the reasons why you said, was you had clarity of how you can get to $10 million, $30 million revenue, right? So now looking back and looking forward, right? How much clarity do you have? How much revenue do you think you are clear in terms of going and getting? And how do you think the rest of the game plays out, or what are some possibilities for you to become much larger than that?
So, Prasanna, I don't know how good is your Hindi, right? But there is a movie called as a Guru movie, Dhirubhai Ambani's movie, right? In that there is a dialogue, "Banana चाहते हो दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी company." So, do you want to make the world's largest company, right? I guess every entrepreneur, when he starts dreaming with that, right? Getting inspirational stories from the great leaders, great entrepreneurs. So we always had that dream to make it big, okay, but we didn't had that clarity, okay. So that clarity was always less. The dreams were big, but the path was not clear. I would say in the last, from that 2 million revenue and a 10 million valuation to what we have today, right? I would say there is a lot of clarity that how you can grow ahead, like that roadmap. So I would say today, at least we think we can hit a 100 million revenue, 100 million ARR very soon, very confidently, and I won't say easily, but confidently, right? Once we reach that, can from that 100 million ARR, can you go to $1 billion ARR? A lot of SaaS companies we see about HubSpot and ServiceNow, right? All of them are at more than $1 billion ARR. Can iMocha do that? I would say definitely the dreams are there, but for now there is a clarity till 100 million ARR. So we'll reach over there. Maybe again we talk couple of years later with $1 billion in valuation, and we can again have a conversation now how to go to $1 billion in revenue.
Awesome, fantastic. So just just some last things. I don't think there are too many questions at the moment, so we can I'll just ask you a couple of questions while we're waiting, if anybody is putting any questions. So if you met Sujit of 6 years ago when you were just starting iMocha, what are some things that you might ask them, or tell them? Tell that Sujit of 6 years ago.
So Prasanna, is this question to me?
Yeah.
So
Sujit of now, what would
yeah.
you tell Sujit of 6 years ago?
As I would say, definitely, if it is whatever you're trying to do, get into a accelerator program, right? Whichever it is, Y Combinator, Upekkha, Gen Next, because it did really help us. Okay, so have that in place. I would say whatever you're building, right? Have a lot of customer conversations. So I've seen that in US and in India. In US, the companies have a website live 6 months before they launch the product. They start having conversations with the customer. There's a schedule a demo button over there, right? People get on a customer call, understand, tell them what we are building and all, and that's how it happens. In India, you will find that they launch a product and they start selling 6 months later, right? So there's a big gap, right? And what you build something in isolation which is not validated from the customer. So I'd have a lot of customer conversations. And the third most important thing, I guess, somewhere we went wrong over there at that time. We didn't plan the finances very well. So we had times when we didn't have money to pay the next month's salary. And my co-founder Amit, he had to even keep his home on, like take a bank loan by mortgaging his home to run the company, right? So if you want to avoid those things, I guess you need to be good in finance management, right? You need to go good in your collection, in your spending. So you need to have some lessons on financial discipline and financial planning. So I would say these are the three things I would tell anyone like 6 years ago. And the most important thing is dream big, right? You should always ask yourself, "Banana चाहते हो दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी company?" And the answer should be yes, right? Then only you will keep on growing year on year and enjoy your entrepreneurship journey. It's tough, but keep on enjoying.
Got it. So Yusuf, do we have any questions? I don't know whether there is a different place where questions are there, or whether we have any questions from the audience. Otherwise, I have a more personal question, Sujit. So, what's your background before iMocha? You said you had done a services company, and you had done we were working in IBM with Amit. Where did you study, and what did you study?
Can you please repeat the question, Prasanna?
Where did you study, and what did you study before your
Okay.
IBM and iMocha and
So
stuff?
I studied. There's a call. I did my computer engineering from a college named PICT in Pune University. Right. Always wanted to go to US to do my MBA. Right. I always thought more than a technology, I'm more of a business guy. Maybe I was a little bit wrong over there. Right. I guess I should have sticked with technology since long. Right. I took a decision to stick with technology a little bit later. So that's it. So born and brought up in Pune, and that's why I always say Pune is the best city in the world to live.
Got it. We have a question. So I think one of the things that you did successfully was transition from a services company to a product company, right? So what are a couple of lessons in terms of mindset, for both for you and for others, if they're making the transition?
So Amit says this story, my Amit Mishra, saying that like said creating a product is like creating a Vim bar, right? And there's a blog which is written on that, and it's about the services. Uh, a maid gets much more paid than what you get sell for a Vim bar, right? Because it's a service component, right? But it's not scalable model. So between a product and a service, I would say the biggest mindset is: are you solving a problem, right? A product is always solving a problem, and you need to be in a problem space a lot. And then you create a product that has to solve that problem. Services is like there is the understanding of the problem is much lesser. Somebody has already done that problem understanding, that analysis, and then is telling you to just go and build this, right? So in a software, when you build softwares, maybe in a services company, when you write a piece of code and you ship it, your job is done 100%. For a product, when you write a ship of like a piece of code and ship it on production, I guess your job is only 10% done, because after that, then you start selling, right, and
Got
working
it.
on the product adoption. So that's a big change in the mindset.
Got it. So I think when we frame it. So thanks, Kapil, for this question. When we frame it, one of the things that we see commonly is that services business, the account managers or the sales folks are very used to agreeing with whatever the customer says. Right. So customer says, "Can we do this?" And you say, "Yes, we can do this." Right. Can we make this change? And they're like, "Yes, we can make this change." Versus in a product company, it has to be very different, right? So how did that play out for iMocha, and how did you, Sujit, as a product tech guy, make that transition?
So I would say we got a good amount of time. I guess one is we pivoted from interview Mocha, which was more of an interview space, to a skill assessment space, right? So that pivot of 2 years, I guess there was a lot of learning. We went more near to the problem. We built something, went, it didn't work with the customer, right? And definitely keep on asking you to change the things as per their requirements, right? And you have to start learning to say no, right? So I guess that was more of a experience, learning right on the job for 2 years. And then when we pivoted, I guess we had done a lot of mistakes, and we realized, hey, things should not be done in this way, it should be done in a better way. So that those are like on job learning, I would say, mainly, because we were running a services company for 5 to 6 years. So for it was extremely tough to unlearn services. We had to invest 2 years to unlearn our IT services mindset and get into a product mindset.
Got it. Cool. So Sujit, I think we are out of questions. So for folks who joined in late, I'm speaking with Sujit of Intrio Mocha. They've grown almost 6x, 7x in the last 2 years, even through COVID, and they're looking to grow 3x, 10x over the next 2 years as well. They're hiring for a lot of roles. So if any of you are looking for a job, you should join iMocha. They're growing fast. They recently raised a round of capital from Eight Roads, and one of the reasons why they selected Eight Roads was because they had a good fit with the folks there, and iMocha team believes more in value than valuation. So they wanted to get the right partners on board, and they got Eight Roads on board. So So that's very interesting how they got that team on board. And iMocha equal to skill assessment, as Sujit likes to say. So Sujit, any last words before we wrap up?
I would say I would be happy to have Upekkha create another 1,000 B2B SaaS startups from India like iMocha, which go from bootstrapping to value SaaS to funding to a unicorn and listing on Nasdaq. I guess that's the story which we saw Freshworks doing. Maybe Upekkha can create another thousands of them like that. So thanks to Upekkha for this entire amazing journey of iMocha and really helping us at every step.
Awesome. Thanks, Sujit. So, folks, if you apply for the next cohort of Upekkha, which will be starting in June, Sujit will be among the people that you will be speaking to, and you can get mentored by. And if you have any more questions, I'm sure that Sujit will be able to answer those questions on LinkedIn. So, thanks, folks, for joining in. Bye, Sujit. Have a good
Hey,
day.
Baba, nice talking to you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.